We're in the business to help the financial institutions. We are leveraging AI solutions, all closed loop, of course. And so we can trace every single aspect of that data and where it's going, how it's being utilized. And then we can offer that back to the consumer as well to say, here's all of your data. And we can present that in very meaningful ways.
Well, hello, Arthur Miller. How are you?
Hi, doing well. Great to be here today.
Oh, thanks. Welcome to the Business Leaders Podcast. And I'm excited to introduce you to our audience. As we were doing the research to be sure that we, fully presented what you're working on, what aren't you working on? I mean, you're one of those go-to guys where the list of what you can do is so much longer than the list of what you can't. But I think I've managed to get my arms around most of it. So I was looking at, your software engineer genius and all the different things you've worked on. Two of the things I think people could relate to, and we'll just get this out of the way so they know this is the guy, is you contributed to the software architecture for Zelle. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people use that payment system, and you've been a leader in changing the way payment systems work. I didn't even know there was an acronym for buy now, pay later. I was reading your Business Insider article and I'm like, that's called a thing, BNPL. Well, I'm not in that world. So if somebody said, well, he specializes in, technology for BNPL, I'd be like, what in the world is that? Buy now, pay later. And we'll be talking about how you see a modular future to consumer finance. And I think, oh no, are we going to talk blockchain and lose me? But we won't. So it will make sense when we get there. But you got your software engineering degree from Harvard.
Yeah, I went to Harvard. I got recruited out of there to go work for DISA, the Defense Information System Agency. It was a nice surprise and created a whole path and career for me that has been phenomenal, mostly dealing with how security affects software. And so from right out of the gate, it became a very important item to me to ensure that we do everything that we can to write secure software and that we protect systems and data assets strongly as possible. And that kind of trickled through my career and led to great things.
That's so interesting. Another unique thing about you is you have worked in enterprise companies, you've worked in government institutions like getting stimulus payments out there, and then you worked in startups with founders. Not many people say that they can just kind of translate between all three of those arenas, but the connective tissue is software and software architecture, right?
Absolutely. And in very different worlds, they operate different, but they all place importance on the same things. Everybody wants to get their product out the door. Everybody wants to have a positive impact on people's lives. And so being able to fuel that in a way that makes sense, placing and prioritizing things accordingly. But at the end of the day, also protecting people, their interest and their data and the systems is always important to people.
Yeah, I think more important than ever. It's kind of a joke or a meme out there now that say, oh my gosh, 3 million records from AT&T cell phones have been hacked. And people say, is there anybody that hasn't hacked my database, my records? It's like, I think I've been on the dark web somewhere for like 10 years. We'll go back to all the other hacks that this has happened, but it's still really important, and I think there's this kind of armed warfare about security and people who defeat security and people who defeat security. So I'm glad we have smart people like you out there on the security side of things so that maybe we'll survive this data war that we seem to find ourselves in. But, I noticed on PayPal that they have a feature now that someone can choose to make installment payments. Like instead of just paying for the whole coaching package up front, they can break it into payments and PayPal decides whether that's okay or not. And that's just the kind of thing that you brought to credit unions so that they can be on the kind of leading edge of, in my mind, we have installment mentality, like you make a car payment, or you make a credit card payment, and everybody is familiar with that process, but that's changing. And one of the things I loved about your point of view, not only is the software changing about it, but the way people manage their consumer debt is changing. And you have kind of a modular understanding of that instead of kind of an installment payment. Do you want to share a little bit about how software is kind of driving new solutions in consumer debt?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're really looking at is we've seen these behaviors because we were so constrained by systems. And, going back into the days of pen and paper and how you have to go into a place to do something, software is breaking those constraints. And so really we can do things any way we really want and choose to do them. And that's going to affect our lives directly. So, the other thing, though, is, how much do people trust systems and how much are they willing to utilize them for certain aspects of their lives? And so getting a solution into credit unions, into the traditional banking systems was important to me because there's a deep level of trust there that people tend to have with them. Whereas, I might not put all of my money into this fintech startup if there's a solution that my financial institution can offer me, that's terrific. What we're seeing, though, is a lot of those traditional institutions also, they're doing the best that they can from a security perspective in maintaining their systems, that it doesn't provide them the ability to innovate always. So there's that room for tech startups to help those financial institutions. And that's kind of where a lot of my companies sit, is to build for those financial institutions in a very highly secure manner, very regulated systems, so that they can adopt them and move the needle in innovation. And that's what I love to help them out with.
Well, you talk in our conversation before this podcast about, are you on the buy side or the build side? Meaning, can you, as a credit union, for heaven's sakes, have proprietary software that's going to be accommodative of new regulations that are in the process of being developed? Or can you just buy a program once it's been approved and just install it?
Exactly.
And kind of the buy side is, especially for financial institutions, probably the shortest route to delivering that cutting edge for customers. You talked about the regulatory architecture, is changing, what the requirements are. Having some kind of transparency in the new modular kind of consumer finance is actually better for consumers. It's better for all of the above. And I was thinking, has he finally solved the fine print problem? Like when you sign on something, you're like, did you reach page 47 in the 3-point font that says, someday we'll take it all away from you? I mean, this kind of transparency. I love that this modular way is offering these other aspects to a consumer, not just ease in terms of managing their credit, but maybe even having more visibility about how they're managing their credit, how to better be a consumer and manage debt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that they were highly focused on. So, we're in the business to help the financial institutions. So we're not trying to sell data. We're not trying to make money from the data, or money comes from the financial institutions to offer that data back to them in a way that makes sense and that's meaningful. We are leveraging AI solutions, all closed loop, of course, and so we can trace every single aspect of that data and where it's going, how it's being utilized, and then we can offer that back to the consumer as well to say, here's all of your data, and we can present that in very meaningful ways. That AI gives us insight that humans don't always or aren't always able to see initially. So having that machines process and search through this data to make those connections that aren't readily visible is highly important. And then to service that back to the end user, and then also the financial institutions, because they want to serve their consumers to the best of their ability as well. And they don't always have those insights to be able to do that. And so we're trying to solve that problem for them as well, to say, like, look, your consumers, or these specific consumers, can actually benefit from these services that you have, and to be able to connect them to those services.
Well, the insight that AI offers really builds a deep and useful profile of a customer experience, and might anticipate needs that they have based on a customer profile that is a lot more than sort of the seat of the pants, front facing customer service person might be able to develop, in terms of what their needs might be. I also love that your AI supported solutions, especially in fintech, the financial systems you develop, but also health tech. You have an ethical requirement in terms of what you build. So, for example, if we had a savings and loan, for example, that was redlining some districts where they wouldn't lend, that would become obvious to regulators. And so some of the shenanigans might be reduced, that maybe historically could be shoved in a folder in a locked cabinet in the back, so I think that transparency is going to serve everybody over time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Being able to surface all of the data points and being able to present them in a way that's human readable and makes sense to people, that offers a ton of value. And you're absolutely right. It reduces the ability or their chance to, whether it's intentional or not, have data hidden that may actually be important to form decisions off of, and could lead to higher productivity, better utilization of the data, and especially in the healthcare space, may even lead to the improvement of somebody's health, and directly impact their life.
Well, so I want to talk about kind of the three areas that you work with. First of all, coming out of Zelle, coming out of, the Equify, which you co-founded, and was the chief technical officer for. You have now founded and are CEO of FIQIS. That's FIQIS. So it's like all tech words, it's spelled different. You just hope phonetically FIQIS, and we think not the house plant, the software company.
Right.
But this modular solutions to have people shift away from just installment payment thinking, creating these new opportunities for how they manage their finances. So how old is FIQIS, and how do you see them kind of impacting the consumer debt marketplace?
Yeah, so FIQIS is very new, a couple of months now, and so we're taking an approach to do several things, although they're all interrelated. So we're looking at creating new lending systems, or approach to micro lending. So somebody may need money for something immediately, maybe it's before the payday. Now, the great thing about going through the traditional financial institution is it eliminates the possibility of any kind of predatory lending, and there's a ton of them out there. And
30% never get out of the whole kind of payday loan.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we really want to eliminate those kind of players in the space. So going through the financial institutions, these are heavily regulated entities that really have to look out for people's best interests.
A lot more consumer protections in those environments.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're creating solutions for them and going through them so that they can assist their consumers or customers in a manner that's financially responsible. Yet give them the ability to get the funds when they need them. So it could be very low interest rates on payback within the micro lending space. We're also opening the door for peer-to-peer lending, which has never been done through financial institutions at all. So there's a lot of interest in that space. And so we're pushing the envelope to create a couple of very new product categories that have not been done yet. At the same time, again, people's data is very important. We have to integrate with core systems. You're not going to integrate with any other system that needs to be more secure unless you get into the government space, right? So, very high levels of security, very difficult to develop into and to integrate with.
Mhm.
So we want to alleviate that pain for them as well. So we're going to be creating integrations into the core systems that then surface an easier way for third parties to integrate, yet increase the security around that so that they're post-quantum compliant as well, which they have to be by 2030 anyway. So it's,
Post-quantum compliant. I mean, that sounds like a phrase from some futuristic movie. Post-quantum
yeah.
compliant.
It almost is. It's definitely the future is here for sure. So quantum computing or quantum physics used to be highly theoretical at one point. It's so real that we're using it for computation now, and it's becoming more and more reliable every day. It is absolutely going to be the next massive wave, aside from AI.
And this is why financial institutions, big pharma or health tech companies, they really have to look at a resource like you on the buy side because you're building in science that's as new as the product being offered to them. The science is so leading edge that they would have to hire people straight out of the Harvard Think Labs, to even come inside and build it for them. It is so new that having a team that's already up to speed like yours, can provide a solution in a box pretty quickly that's regulatory friendly instead of, okay, go find a team of geniuses and put them to work. And in 6 months, we'll try to get something to market,
Right.
you're ready to go. So it's exciting to hear about what FIQIS is doing. I wanted to mention two other firms because sometimes you also act as a fractional chief technology officer or CTO when you
Mhm.
see something interesting to work on. One is TrialNAV, and we'll include these company names and their links in the show notes under below, in the description. But that's to help pharma companies get through, drug trials. And as I was looking at your information on the website, staff burnout is a really big problem. Delays is a really big problem. And probably every month of delay is more cost in the drug at the end of the road, right? I mean, the longer it takes to develop, the more they'll have to recoup costs in order to make it available. Cancer cures or Alzheimer treatments or whatever those are. We want drug trials so that we have efficacy and we know safety. And you're bringing software to making that easier. Tell me a little bit about TrialNAV.
Yeah, so I have the good fortune to be able to work with a brilliant CEO in that space named Brenda. She started the company. What we're doing is we're focusing on the oncology space initially to help in that area, but are going to be broadening it. I'm coming in to help her with scalability, security, and then also there's a ton of data that's being collected in that space right now.
Yeah.
How we utilize that data is going to become extremely important. That she's able to build this out, and we have some customers taking that data, building it into a large data lake and set to then leverage AI to offer insights, and then to have that as another product line out to hospitals, physicians, pharmacists to look at and to learn from that data of what's really happening, how things are correlated, so that they can get a lot of information on what's going on in that space. There's a lot of room for growth in that space, believe it or not, and it's hard to believe that there aren't already solutions doing this. Luckily, I get to work with her, and we are able to start collaborating so that we can get not only her expertise in the medical space, but combined with my expertise in the technology space to really solve for some deep problems.
Well, the scalability is so key. And every minute that it's not in trial, but now available, as a health solution to someone, it could be life-saving or life-enhancing. And
Mhm.
that's a space where it's cost prohibitive. to, have patents, to try to roll things out. You might need a 5-year trial. I mean, it can be cost prohibitive. Is AI in the software side, the quantum mechanics of it all, is that bringing things faster to market? Is it shortening or lowering the cost of the overhead on the pharma side?
Yes, it is bringing things faster to market. Absolutely. We can move faster than ever before. It's a tremendous help. You still need technical expertise for sure. There's a lot that AI can't quite do and doesn't do quite well, but it can get a lot of people 80% of the way there very quickly. And so we're able to iterate much faster and to get these things out to market much faster than ever before. So while some people may be a little nervous about that, I fully embrace it because it's not about securing a career and working longer. It's about getting things out to people so that it can help people's lives. And that's really what it's all about. At the end of the day, especially looking at the oncology space, it really reminds you that at the end of the day, these devices connect out to people, but there's a human being at the end of the device. It's real people using these things to assist their lives. And really, that's the goal is to get all of these potential products out the door to help people.
Well, and even just facilitating what the protocols and the process are on the labor side, for those trials. I was noticing on your website that, staff burnout, if you're constantly replacing people, if you have high turnover, then it slows down everything. So you want to grease all the wheels in the cycle, right? So that they're
Exactly.
And while this may not be as important as potential cancer breakthroughs coming through faster, Ocotillo is a company that helps with subscription software. So to have smarter subscriptions, I loved how that was described. That again, the same kind of insight to consumer debt that AI can bring, the kind of insight to that data lake as you described, in the development of, drugs and new pharmaceuticals, you're bringing into just a customer experience on subscriptions. So people that, cancel their subscriptions, can you kind of bring them back in? Can you learn what has dissuaded them either from buying initially or from canceling their subscription? So even just in the simplest ways that people engage with screens all the time, if they have a subscription, whether it's a Netflix or, some other kind of system that they want to continue using, taking the friction out of that process just takes kind of the headache out of the process. So every once in a while you hear people say, oh my God, I can't call customer service because I won't get anywhere. And I can't get this button to work on the screen. It just keeps putting me in this death loop. I can't make it stop. So that's not the end of the world, and it's not cancer, but still, it's nice that you're working on a solution.
Yeah. It's actually an interesting problem to solve for. There's a lot of things that a lot of improvements that can be done in the space. It's not at the forefront of everyone's thought when they start looking at problems to solve for, but it really is an interesting one because we have so much that we do within our life that some of that gets pushed aside. Like we know for people who wear like prescription glasses or something like that, they know they should update them. They might even they're like. So I'm guilty of this. My daughter wears glasses. I know I could get her. My insurance covers glasses to get a new pair every year, but we don't always. Sometimes it gets pushed out a couple of years, and then she needs to go get a new, actual prescription, then a new pair. So that's throwing out some of the things I deal with, where that could be subscription based. They could just show up on the door and nobody has to worry about it. So it kind of takes those steps out of life so that you have time to do those other things. There are some stuff that you might not want every month, every other month, or maybe you want it to show up every 3 weeks or whatever the case. So we're building a very highly customizable subscription engine that can be used by any business across the board, even if no subscription engine had previously been used, and we're allowing people to use that, and we're hoping to get obviously into e-commerce. That's a big one, but even across the board to other things that don't typically or haven't typically used subscriptions. So, for instance, like optometry and many other fields that could benefit, or their consumers can benefit from it. Where we're looking to get into those spaces.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I know when we talked about, your love of software and the kind of combination of visionary that you are, that you have that entrepreneurial mindset, which is 10% of the population. God bless that you're in America. So you're helping us solve these problems here. But you also just have that engineering problem solving, from being a software engineer. So when you work with people that are product developers or product managers and have an idea, they have that light bulb over their head that won't turn itself off, they can come to you and say, this is what I'm thinking. Can you help me make it real? And
Yeah.
you have a way to do that. And kind of your approach is, well, let's clearly map out the problem you're solving. And then when we see the problem fully, now we know where the solution lies. And so that sounds like an engineer to me, but also a visionary. So
Yeah.
instead of, well, nobody's figured out yet, so it's probably too big a problem to solve. No, no, no.
Right.
You say, oh, a juicy problem to solve. So
Yes.
yeah, that's wonderful.
Absolutely. For me, it's always problem first. I look for them. I thrive off of finding problems because every problem is an opportunity. And it's if somebody's facing a problem, you have the opportunity and the chance to better somebody's lives. And if it applies to one person, it probably applies to millions of others, right? Because we're not all that different. So being able to solve for identify and clearly map out a problem is I thrive off of that because the solutions tend to pop out from there. And then once you're able to solve for that, you've just improved somebody's life, right? So
No,
it's
absolutely.
tremendous.
Well, it's nice to know that you're willing to talk with people who have the seed of an idea, but also from time to time, people come to a terrific problem solver and visionary and say, well, we've come this far in this, we've solved this problem, but now there's new regulations. We don't have our AI engine dialed in exactly correctly yet, or whatever the next level of what we need, we're stuck. And so
Mhm.
you're able to say, well, hey, one entrepreneur to another, describe your problem. I'll see if I can lend you my brain for a little while. So sometimes, because things are scaling really fast, regulation is changing fast, the world of money is changing fast. I think geographical lines on the map are going to someday, a big eraser is just going to erase all of it, everything all at once, all the time.
Mhm.
So, but people have to respond in their businesses to that. And so that's also a way that you give back is like, oh, okay, so you got this far and you got to get here, but there's a hitch in the get along somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to help people and businesses solve those kind of problems. A lot of times there's even that transition from startup phase. And that's why I like actually helping startups and helping larger enterprises
Mhm.
is there tends to be this phase that people really have to transition through. And people typically go through a digital transformation, and which carries with it transformation in skill sets, transformations in processes, and
Oh,
adherence to different regulatory laws and things like that, whether it be like CCPA or protecting PII data, SOC 2.
those troublesome Congress people, they pass new laws like every year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Aha, you
They
figured
just
out
like
the
to make
last
it
ones.
tougher.
We're busy
Yeah.
writing new ones. Get ready.
Yeah, exactly. So I love to jump in and help people through that, analyze what's going on, clearly identifying the problems, and then coming up with solutions, testing those solutions in practice, seeing where we're at, and then starting to tweak things from there to whether it's increasing productivity, increasing security, increasing throughput. It's a tremendous thing to be able to do. I also thrive off of that. I love to help people out and overall to see the impact and change that things have on organization and on individuals, because again, it's people spend a large percent of their life at work, and if things aren't going well,
Yeah.
it's not always I guess a life well lived. Whereas it could be like at the end of the day, we're human beings. We've created these companies, we've created these systems. We
Yeah.
can change them.
Yeah. Well, and try to keep up with all the changes happening around us. Sometimes the change is kind of involuntary because the world is moving fast. And it's great to know that there are people on the buy side who are building solutions ready to go on the shelf to market. When you arrive at the place, you're like, oh my Lord, I need that. Oh, well, it just landed on the shelf. We might have a solution for you.
Mhm.
And so that's good to know. The last thing I want to talk to you about is kind of the AI revolution. You mentioned quantum computing. AI
Mhm.
is kind of one of the threads that goes through sort of the software engineering that you're doing. Pretty soon, I mean, I think they added it to my Microsoft Word documents. There's going to be no corner of the earth that AI does not touch. And
Right.
so you have mentioned it's not one tool to rule them all, but still it probably will be ubiquitous, everywhere present. So do you have some thoughts about AI?
Yes, absolutely. Going back to that, not one tool to rule them all. I don't think that there's going to be a large AI model that does that at all anytime in the near future. I think we're going to see a lot of small things pop up all over that solve smaller problems that are going to be highly specialized and highly focused and take care of that problem much better
Mhm.
than any large model would. We can see that like there's things starting to pop up that it's just for visual content creation only, and that's all that it does. But it does it extremely well and better than the large models or the large general models.
The
So
training is so specific. Results
exactly.
are specific too.
So I think we're going to see that more and more. Like you'll see an AI that's just for resume improvement. You'll see an AI that's you mentioned Word docs
Mhm.
just for that. So like Copilot is going to get zeroed in specifically for that. Um, there's going to be more and more come out every day that helps engineers with code, right? But
Mhm.
taking very different approaches, and they're getting highly specific. So they'll start actually getting probably even language specific, where oh, this specific tool is meant to do code generation in AI with Spring or whatever the case, right? Or Python for data science. And so I think they're going to get more and more highly specific, and we'll be able to pick and choose. It'll get a little convoluted initially, but I think people will find, okay, I can use these broad set of things rather than this one large thing that I'm going to try to use for everything.
Right. No, that's good news. Well, and it sounds like people will still be in the mix somewhere. We won't just work to keep the machines humming. We'll still have lives. We'll
Right,
still
right.
have daughters who need glasses, maybe one day on subscription.
Exactly, exactly. And at the end of the day, hopefully it all of this just frees us up more to be more productive and to live higher quality lives and maybe even extend those lives.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the easy stimulus payment, the easy Zelle transfers. You're making my life better already. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing, Arthur. Thanks so much for visiting,
Oh,
Cass.
I appreciate you, and thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.